Hare Krishna devotees, Maharaj, welcome to this conference call. Thank you for making yourself available. I'd like to welcome all the devotees on the call. I will not do a big introduction, but I just want to thank Maharaj for all of these years, for being there for us. He's our father, our friend, our spiritual guide, our mentor, our hope in many ways. And Maharaj, thank you for giving us this wonderful community of devotees here in Columbus. So thank you, Maharaj, for being here for the call. I would just like to give it to Naveen Krishna Prabhu and Mother Vraj Bhakti. They can introduce the devotees who are on the call. I think about 30 families are here. And then Maharaj, you please take it from there.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, very happy to see you. Thank you very much. Maharaj, we don't know the forum, so we were told it's not a class, but you would like to speak to all the devotees. So whatever you want, so let us know. I don't know if I can introduce all the devotees, but you know some of them. There are a lot of new people also joined the community recently, past 4 or 5 years, came around 5 to 6 years back. So what do you want us to do, Maharaj? Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Let us together chant Mangala Charanam, and then we will see how Srila Prabhupada and Sri Radharani and Krishna inspire us. Om Magyan Timidan Dasya Yananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Prave Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yudhapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunasambitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Asya Jadeshatharine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudhe Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It was my great determination and a very specific plan that I had when coming to the United States this year to come to Columbus to be with all of you. It has been many years since I last was there, and sometimes we meet with the community members in New York City at the Bhakti Center or at Sri Radha Govinda Temple, sometimes in Chicago, sometimes even at Radha Gopinath Temple or Govardhan Eco Village in India. And the attraction of my heart to be with all of you, I was determined no matter what, my priority was to be in Columbus. Somehow or other, by the divine arrangement of providence, that is not possible. But I'm very happy, very grateful, very honored that we could be together in this virtual conference call. Is the platform of Zoom. Almost every day I'm either having meetings or doing classes or discussions on Zoom. And I'm thinking it's a divine arrangement by Krishna. He's given us various bija or seed mantras, Om, Kling, Aing, Hrim, and now we have Zoom. In this way, we take it as a blessing. Srila Prabhupada taught us that technology, science, all these, what are interpreted as progress in the world, are neither positive or negative in and of themselves. The concept of yukta vairagya is that we see everything as Krishna's energy. Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam. That Krishna is perfect and complete. Krishna is the absolute truth. Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes, the source of everything that exists. The very basis of Vedic knowledge, Brahma Sutra tells, Janmadyashayataha, that the absolute truth is the source of everything. The father, the mother of all living beings, and the ultimate controller and proprietor of all of creation. Lord Brahma, in his Brahma Samhita, prayed, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. That Ishvara, that cause of all causes, is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. Krishna tells he's the source of all spiritual and all material worlds. Everything emanates from him. And the wise who know this engage in his loving service with all of our hearts. And Krishna tells in the Gita, Mayad yakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam, that he's the controller of this entire material creation. There are parasya shaktir vivadaiva shruyate. There are many energies that are springing from the love of Krishna. And these many energies take many forms to reciprocate, often with different people's particular states of consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada explains that everything is spiritual because everything's coming from Krishna. When we recognize that everything is Krishna's property, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, and we understand that Jivara Swarupa Krishnera Nityadas, we are all eternal servants of Krishna, then we understand that the proper nature of our true self and the proper nature of everything that exists is for the pleasure of Krishna. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. The whole purpose of this entire material creation and the whole purpose of life is to please Krishna. So whatever there is, if we see it as Krishna's property and we use it according to Krishna's will in Krishna's service, then we recognize, we realize, and utilize everything as spiritual. Srila Prabhupada would be riding on airplanes and speaking in dictaphones, and at that time, in the 1960s, reel-to-reel tape recorders and dictaphones were the top level of technology. And Srila Prabhupada was using all of it. But he never claimed anything to be his own. He was doing everything in Krishna Seva. And Krishna comes to this world especially to show mercy to the fallen souls, to remind people of what they have forgotten, that we are all in Krishna, we are of Krishna, we are part and parcel of Krishna. And Anandamayo Vyashat, the true satisfaction that we're all seeking is to feel Krishna's love and to love Krishna. Krishna comes to this world to remind us of that. So the greatest service we could render while in this world is to be reminded, to take very seriously Krishna's reminder by taking to the path of satsang and sadhana and seva, and to share that gift with others. And Srila Prabhupada taught us by his example, as did his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, how to utilize everything to uplift people's consciousness. And that is the legacy of love that Srila Prabhupada has given us in the form of the society that he created with his own heart, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And he has left, or let us say, entrusted as caretakers of his life's mission to those who love him, to those who want to please him. And that is the great fortune we all have. In spiritual life, along with good fortune comes responsibility. All of your homes, your family members, your wealth, all of your influence over other people, and your very bodies and minds, everything is Krishna's sacred property entrusted in your care. And what is so important is community. Community in Krishna consciousness is when we resolve all of our apparent differences in opinions, in natures, in circumstances, by putting Krishna in the center. Because Krishna tells in Gita, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma karata hamiti manyate. That this false ego, ahankar, the misidentification that I'm this body, I'm the mind, the things in relation to this body are mine, and that means my skills, my intelligence, my influences. This ahankar separates our own consciousness from Krishna. There's nothing that separates the consciousness from Krishna more than the false ego. And when we're separated from Krishna within our own hearts because of this false ego, then we're prone to envy, to selfish lust, anger, greed, arrogance, and illusion. These 6 enemies are actually symptoms of the disease of ahankar. In fact, we could never be separated from Krishna. Krishna is like the sun, but when we turn our back to the sun, we see shadow. And this Maya is that shadow. And we're identifying our existence in that way. And we're separated from Krishna in our ability to have an awareness of Krishna. We're seeking our Krishna's within our hearts. He's within the heart of every living being. He's in the spiritual world performing his eternal pastimes, just waiting for us, playing his flute for each and every one of us. That is Krishna. He's Rasa Bihari. He's the supreme lover. If someone in this world does something, they do it for a person. When Krishna plays on his flute, he's not only calling all the gopis, but he's calling every living entity back to his eternal loving abode. But we cannot hear that flute. And the path of bhakti purifies our heart so we can feel Krishna calling us again. And to the extent we actually become conscious of Krishna or Krishna conscious, param drisva nivartate, then we are so happy with Krishna's beauty and with Krishna's mercy and with the deities being dressed so nicely and with the deities getting such nice prasad and with deities getting nice temple. And we're so happy hearing Krishna's pastimes, enjoying in Vrindavan from the Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna's words in Bhagavad Gita, that there's no false ego. Then we're actually in the state that Lord Chaitanya declared is the highest aspiration of a devotee. Gopi Bhartur Padkamalayor Das 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 Anudas. To be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord of the Gopis. And just this morning I was listening to a recording of Srila Prabhupada, and he was especially explaining this instruction of Lord Chaitanya. It was a class in Vrindavan Dham. And Srila Prabhupada was saying, Lord Chaitanya taught that our only real aspiration should be to be the servant of the servant of the servant. And Srila Prabhupada said, if you want to be a gopi, that is Mayavad. We should aspire to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis. And everyone within our community is on various levels trying to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. And what will please Prabhupada most and what will please Krishna most is to have this consciousness of being the servant of the servant of the servant. And when all of us can actually realize that this is the most important factor of our life, we perform our sadhana very carefully and we live our life in such a way that we're aspiring to be that servant of the servant of the servant. When we have that consciousness, we can truly have a spiritual community because Krishna is then really in the center. And we could live unity in diversity. There is so much diversity in this world. But how to create unity within that diversity? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us the secret formula. Srila Prabhupada said that this was the secret formula that brought real unity and love. Trinadapi sunichena tador iba sihishnuna amani namanadena kirtaniya sadahari. To feel oneself more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to offer all respect to others and not to demand or expect respect for oneself. It is when we truly perform the tapasya of striving to live by these principles that we achieve real courage. Why is it that we can gain real courage? Because we actually feel the shelter of Krishna. Kirtaniya Sadahari. We can take shelter of the holy name in this state, and we can experience the shelter of Krishna. Bhajahure mana Sri Nandanandana abhaya charnara vindare. That we're praying to our mind, please take shelter and worship the lotus feet of Sri Nandanandana, because then we become fearless. And by Krishna's arrangement, Srila Prabhupada's name, Abhay Charan, and that name was retained even after he took sannyas, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. His father gave him the name Abhay Charan, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Abhay Charan Aravinda, and at Sannyas A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So this idea of finding shelter and finding courage in that shelter is at the very heart of what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving to the world through the chanting of the holy names and through living in this spirit of servant of the servant. And it's what Prabhupada exemplified as our Acharya and taught us with his every breath. So these principles are so essential for our own personal spiritual growth. And there is an inseparable connection between how we assist the community to grow and our own personal spiritual growth. Because if we try to activate and live by these principles of trying to really uplift others and trying to be a well-wisher and being happy with the good fortune of others and being sad with the sadness that others experience, paradukkha dukkhi. If we really model our aspiration on that, if we really believe this is what is valuable, then we'll give priority to it. We'll adjust our lives in this way, especially in our interactions with devotees and with the people in general. Then when we serve the community in this way, in order to serve the community properly, we require to act in ways that actually we become Krishna conscious and we make advancement through doing. And that's what the International Society for Krishna Consciousness means. That in our service to the society of devotees, to the communities, we must prioritize to behave and to speak and to pray in ways that are for the highest benefit of my own spiritual life. And we have our sadhana so that we can actually have more of a purity of consciousness to serve and to please Krishna. Columbus is truly a historic, special place in our movement. Srila Prabhupada, he sent the first devotee to move into 22nd Avenue. The first devotee to meet Srila Prabhupada and move into his storefront was Hayagriva Prabhu. And Hayagriva Prabhu, he established the Krishna consciousness movement in Columbus personally. And Srila Prabhupada personally sent to be with him another one of the most prominent people in the history of our movement, Prajumuna Prabhu. Prajumuna Prabhu perhaps had more personal association with Prabhupada than anyone. He traveled with Prabhupada as his Sanskrit editor for most of the years of Srila Prabhupada's physical leela in this world. And every day we hear in recordings Prajumuna Prabhu reading the Sanskrit and reading the verses. Srila Prabhupada, he sent these two such prominent, close devotees to his heart to establish Columbus. And the two of them lived there for quite some time. And interestingly, at a certain time, Srila Prabhupada, when he was recording his translations and purports to to his books, especially Srimad Bhagavatam and other such books, he would send the cassette tapes to Columbus. That was like one of the first places that Srila Prabhupada, all of the books that he was writing at that time, they were, before anyone would hear them, they would be heard by the devotees to be transcribed in Columbus. So very, very special. A temple was established, I believe it was just before, in 1968, in Columbus, Ohio. And it was there that Srila Prabhupada had the first kirtan with the youth of America. In fact, with the youth of the Western world. In fact, as far as we know, it's the first kirtan Prabhupada really had with the student youth. And in Hitchcock Hall at Ohio State University, I believe 2,000 students came. And Allen Ginsberg was invited. And the kirtan made Srila Prabhupada so happy. Every one of the students was dancing. Srila Prabhupada was dancing. Allen Ginsberg was dancing. All the devotees were dancing. And the students were so happy chanting Hare Krishna. They were dancing on the desks and dancing on their seats and dancing on the stage and dancing in the aisles and dancing and singing so loudly. And Srila Prabhupada wrote so many letters, how it filled his heart with so much joy to see the student community was attracted to our Krishna consciousness movement. And really the seed of college preaching was from Columbus. Srila Prabhupada was inspiring so many people in so many places that go to the colleges. The hearts of these students is fertile. So in one sense, student and college preaching in ISKCON began really in Columbus by Srila Prabhupada himself. Very, very special. And there are so many beautiful recordings of Srila Prabhupada speaking to the devotees and speaking to the public and speaking to Allen Ginsberg there in Columbus. Some of the most important recordings of Prabhupada are there in Columbus during his visit. And sometime later, one of Srila Prabhupada's original, most dedicated and pure-hearted devotees, Malati Devi, took charge of Columbus, that temple on 8th Avenue. By Srila Prabhupada's great mercy, I had the fortune in the early 80s of actually finding that building and starting that temple. And it was just wonderful. We were having feasts every night with college students and townspeople. And later, Malati Devi, Srila Prabhupada, I believe, personally sent her. She personally lived there and oversaw a wonderful, wonderful ashram, and for years, and such a dear devotee to Srila Prabhupada. And to this day, Columbus, the devotees in Columbus, the mission in Columbus is so intimately dear to Malati Prabhu's heart. So in so many ways, it may not be that so many people speak about Columbus like they do Los Angeles or New York, but qualitatively, the place where you have the opportunity to serve has such intimate, special blessings. Srila Prabhupada personally danced in that town. And we know that when Prabhupada danced, that Narada Muni and the Panchatattva were all dancing with him. So this is Columbus. And I remember seeing a slogan about Ohio, that it is the heart of it all. Something like that. And I'm very happy with that. Ohio is very special because by inconceivable arrangement, which is beyond any of my plans or efforts, somehow or other, I became connected with the Bhakti Center, and Radha Murlidhar are there. And by Srila Prabhupada's own personal direction, Sri Sri Radha Murlidhar, the heart of my heart appeared in Cleveland, Ohio. And now we see so many devotees from Cleveland who are in Columbus at this time, and some are waving, and I'm very speechless with happiness to see you all. And many of our devotees have come from Cleveland, many have come from India, many have come from so many different places in the world. And, we have a great opportunity. But the way the world works is wherever something wonderful can be done, Krishna doesn't just let anybody do it. We can be anybody. We don't have to have high education, or we could have high education. We could have wealth, we could not have wealth. We can be very skilled, we cannot be skilled. Material qualifications are not relevant to make a wonderful contribution. What is relevant is our sincerity. And sincerity is both tested and nourished when there are difficult conditions. Tatenu kampam susamikshimano punjana evatmakritam vipagam. When there's difficult situations, that's the time when we're tested. Will we keep Krishna in the center? Will we keep what pleases our gurus and Prabhupada and Krishna in the center, even when there's temptations, when there's fears, and when there's conflicts and difficulties and all of these things? Srila Prabhupada is our founder Acharya. Krishna put him in such difficulties. At the very beginning, there was so many heart attacks and strokes and poverty and so many reversals. At certain times, the American government was trying to outlaw our movement, calling it a dangerous cult. And it was in the courts, in the high courts, being fought whether the Krishna consciousness movement had a right to exist. And Srila Prabhupada, he saw everything as an opportunity. Everything. In India, the very people he had such love for, they dismissed him. Many of them did not give him respect or credit. But Srila Prabhupada, he maintained the integrity and the dignity of pleasing his Guru Maharaj in all those situations. And he was doing that to teach us. that Columbus is a very important place, and anywhere we are, it's an important opportunity. But we grow in Krishna consciousness by taking responsibility, and taking responsibility doesn't just mean, certain managerial matters. That could be included, but taking responsibility means preserving the dignity of the mood of our gurus, even in the most testing and difficult times. And that's how communities grow, when we keep Krishna in the center in that way, and that's how individually all of us grow. So I remember before we had that temple on 8th Avenue, I was coming to Columbus every Tuesday, and I would sit on a little grassy lawn, it's not there anymore, in front of Long's bookstore on High Street. Is Long's bookstore still there? And it was at a very prominent place right across the street from Ohio State University. And I would sit on the grass and I would play a harmonium and chant and have a little book table, give out invitations, and then go to the North End Community Center. I think it was on Norwood Avenue. And I would go into a little basement kitchen, or else I would go to a wonderful man named Augustus Bird, and I would cook a feast at his house and then bring it to the North End Community Center. And then every Tuesday we'd have a Sunday feast. We would have lecture, and we would have kirtan and dancing, and then and chanting, and then we would have a feast. And that was going so well. We were so happy. It was the perfect location. We were getting about 40 or 50 people for every event. And it went on for a couple of years. But Krishna always put stumbling blocks. We thought this was the best program in America, practically. But then one week we went there, and it was burned to the ground. There was a fire, and the North End community burned to the ground. There was nothing left of it. So now what were we going to do? And we couldn't find any other place because they liked us there. I think we paid like $5 to rent a huge hall for the entire afternoon and evening, because we made friends with them. But then the only place we could find was quite far away, and it was hard to get students to come. And out of necessity, we decided with the community around who was willing to help with the rent, we found that building on 8th Avenue right across the street from Ohio State University. And by Malati Devi and all of your Prem Vilas Prabhu and all of your Kamagiri, all of your great efforts, that center is still the home of Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Natavara. I remember I personally got to name those deities and I drove them all to Columbus in my van and put them on a little altar in that house many years ago. So it's a very special place to Prabhupada, very special place to so many devotees, and a very special place to myself. I don't know why I'm saying all these things, but they're just coming from my heart because I'm seeing you and I'm feeling so much love from all of you and so much enthusiasm and so much mercy that I'm overwhelmed. Thank you very much. would anyone like to ask any questions or share any thoughts at this time?
Devotees, if you want to say something, Maharaj is asking. If you want to raise a hand, we can unmute you. You can ask the question.
Naveen Krishna Prabhu, Brajavati Devi, Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
If you could call on people, because it's hard for me to see who's raising hands and all of that.
Sure, Maharaj, we can do that. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Wonderful lecture. Thank you very much. Dear devotees, if you can raise, I can see the hand here, so we can go one by one, or you can type your question on a chart. We can take it up. So let's.
No, if you go to participants and click on it, and then look to the right, you'll see invite, mute, and then raise hand. So you poke that raised hand, and then you will be able to see who has their hand up electronically. We do this during the GBC meeting, and then it works very well. So you go to participants, click on it, look to the right, and then you'll see at the lower corner, raise hand, and raise hand and lower hand, both are there.
Yeah, I see the first person, Darpan Prabhu, raise the hand. Darpan Prabhu, please go ahead, followed by Prem Sindhu Prabhu.
Thank you so much, dear Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. I am Hare Krishna, Maharaj. I am also from Ohio State University, and I had a chance to visit the Hitchcock's halls last year with few of my friends here. And it was really nice. I could really feel the presence of Prabhupada and all his devotees still. Since today morning we were discussing about a topic, it's about compassion, and then I was hearing one of your talk also when you were in Juhu, Mumbai. You were giving that talk in 2012, and then you were talking about compassion, and then you gave an example of Arjuna. And then you were telling that Arjuna was feeling compassion for all the people, for all army of both sides. But then Krishna told him that this compassion is for the body, not for the soul. So then you finally concluded that one should be compassionate for the soul. So my question is, how do I understand if I am showing compassion to people, if I am showing that for their material body or for their soul?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada would sign his letters, "I hope this letter meets you in best of health." Srila Prabhupada was concerned with our bodies, but he was concerned with our bodies because he was concerned with our souls. So the difference between mundane philanthropy and seva is we are focused on the body, the mind's connection with the soul. And ultimately, we want to uplift the soul. But while the soul is in this body, the soul is experiencing, through the mind and through this physical body of ours, we're experiencing life very much through that. So a devotee, wants to help people physically and wants to help people emotionally, but it's always with the ultimate objective to show compassion to the soul and to uplift the soul.
Maharaj.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Prem Sindhu Prabhu, we can go followed by Urkum Prabhu.
because, Srila Prabhupada taught us that the body we have, we should not neglect it because it's Krishna's property. We should take the best possible care of our body we can. So, because it's Krishna's property and it's the vehicle in which the soul interacts with this world. And it's not that only our body is Krishna's property, but everybody's body is Krishna's property. And although the body is subject to the power of time and it inevitably grows old, gets diseased and die, the human life, and when we're talking about Atato Brahma Jigyasa, now that you have this human life, Durlabha Manava Janma, Lobhya Samsare, this human life is very rare. Human means the body and the mind. The soul is within the animals and the birds. The soul is part and parcel of Krishna. But when the soul comes into this human life, there's this very valuable, rare opportunity to awaken our God consciousness, our Krishna consciousness. So we very much respect the bodies of everyone. We don't eat meat because we respect the pain of the animals and the birds. And they're part of Krishna, and we have no right to cause pain to anyone unnecessarily. So Arjuna was compassionate to the body in a way that was distracting him from his spiritual responsibilities. It's not that Krishna was saying, don't worry about the bodies. It's that his concern with the bodies was actually impeding him from acting in seva and in dharma. So this harmony, this bhakti yoga means to harmonize through bhakti, through devotion. The body, the mind, the words, harmonize it all. The material nature, harmonize everything in a spirit of service to Krishna in ways that helps people either quickly or gradually to actually awaken to their true Krishna consciousness. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Prem Sandhi Prabhu, you can go next and followed by Urukrama Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the class. My question is, you were mentioning about how we should keep Krishna in the center, a community which keeps Krishna in the center. But when devotees differ in their way of how to keep Krishna in the center, devotee A wants to keep Krishna in the center in a certain way, devotee B wants to keep Krishna in the center in a certain other way, and there can be disagreements and difference of opinion. So in that scenario, what would be the right way to move forward? How do we decide? And where all the devotees want to keep Krishna in the center, but they have different ways of how this should be done.
Thank you. You have just defined the nature of devotional service in this material world, that these impediments are there everywhere. And the strength of a community is to the extent we're willing to transcend these differences of opinions. And the way that is done, first of all, even if we have disagreements, if we're actually doing it for Krishna, even if we will disagree with respect. This is essential because it's natural. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's so many disagreements. between Arjuna and Draupadi and Bhima, but they loved each other and they respected each other. They had different natures, they had different experiences in life, but this is what really is the test of our sincerity. The test of the strength of a community is not that we don't have different opinions, but that even if we have different opinions, we disagree with each other with respect. We disagree with each other as well-wishers. We don't want to defeat each other. We don't want to dismiss each other. We want to uplift each other. Srila Prabhupada explained that in Vaikuntha, the mentality is everybody is Prabhu and I alone am Das. So even if we disagree, still they are a Prabhu. And that Prabhu means that they're dear to Prabhupada and they're dear to Krishna, and how I treat them, even in disagreement, is my relationship with Krishna and how I'm pleasing my Guru. So it's very important, even at the time when there is a heated disagreement, that we interact with respect, with Vaishnav culture. And only if we do it that way will Krishna actually reveal what he wants. Otherwise, we get caught up in ego and envy and anger and arrogance, and all these things could so much come out of a disagreement. But what we want is that Krishna consciousness comes out of these disagreements. And if the disagreement, if approached with respect for one another, das anudas, we have the right to disagree with each other. But if it's an important issue, then we present it before a senior Vaishnav. And if the desire of Guru and Krishna is really in the center of it all, then we just present it and then we accept it. Because after all, our purpose is not to prove anything. Our purpose is to please our Gurus and Krishna. And that can only be done, really, when we have respect in Vaishnav culture in the way we agree and disagree. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
We can easily go to a higher authority and inquire. And then we all accept it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. That was also one of my questions. Thank you very much. The next is Urukan Prabhu, followed by Ramesh and Vasanta.
Okay, good.
Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. My name is Ujjulitai, and I like to do prasad distribution. It's so nice service. It's one of my favorite service. As you eat, so many people came, and you cook a big feast. And is it easy to possible to do prasad distribution in Columbus with public outside people?
It is not only possible, but it is wonderful.
And we want to welcome you also to Columbus.
Thank you, Ujjulitai Prabhu.
At this very moment, I am at your home.
All right.
Online. Offer both hand. Give one offer. Offer. Hare Krishna. Hare
Thank you, Untitled Prabhu. Ramesh Prabhu, please, you want to go forward, followed by Hari Prabhu.
I feel very purified by that beautiful ceremony.
Thank you, Maharaj.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Prabhupada. Thank you. Thank you very much for the wonderful lecture and gracing our home here in Columbus. I had a question, Maharaj, that recently me and a couple of other devotees, including Mother Kamagiri's son Hari and different other devotees, we have started like just as you were saying, you were doing Harinam on Norfolk on by the campus. We have started Harinam and book distribution in Goodale Park, and it's been going at Goodale Park about 5 minutes away from 8th Avenue Temple, and it's been going very well. A lot of people are very receptive, but I just had one question, that when individually, I feed off of everybody else's enthusiasm, but to get myself enthused and to feel the urgency in Krishna consciousness to go out and do Harinam, it's somewhat lacking, and I'd really like to know how would I feel that urgency and care in doing Harinam and doing Sankirtan with the grace of Guru and Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I remember in 1972 at New Vrindavan, a devotee asked our beloved Srila Prabhupada, how can I act enthusiastic if I do not feel enthusiastic? And Srila Prabhupada said, you act enthusiastic whether you feel it or not, for the pleasure of Krishna. And by doing that austerity of acting enthusiastic, even if we don't feel enthusiastic, then Krishna actually gives you true enthusiasm. So we may be enthusiastic to chant our rounds, we may be enthusiastic to come to the temple, we may be enthusiastic to take care of our family, we may be enthusiastic. You know, a mother doesn't feel enthusiastic necessarily in the middle of the night to take care of her child, but she does it. And that's the way she expresses her love, and that's the way her love for her child grows too. So in a similar way, if we know something's right and it pleases our Guru and Krishna, then we act enthusiastic. And it's not a matter of what makes me happy, it's a matter of watering the root of the tree, making Krishna happy, because that's what truly makes us happy. And of course, if we have sincere sadhana, hearing and chanting, and we have nice association, sadhu sangha, that gives us the strength to actually be enthusiastic, to serve Krishna in every situation. So get spiritually strong through your sadhana, get spiritually strong by nice association, and then whatever you feel like, be enthusiastic. because it makes Krishna happy.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, it's 7 o'clock here. We don't know how much time we have. There is 7 more questions.
Malati Devi Prabhu, would you like to speak something to us? I'm so happy you're here. I feel so blessed to be, I see your merciful glance upon me.
They tuned in to hear you. They hear me enough.
Is Kamagiri Mataji here? And Krishangi Saki is here, and Radha Vijay is here, and Hari, and who else is here in your family?
Yeah.
Amazing, incredible, wonderful. Kamagiri Devi, please speak to us.
Oh my goodness. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me? I would just okay. I'm just gonna sing a song a little bit, just a little bit. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything we aspire to be. And one day we hope to achieve that goal. We want to tell you we love you so much. Thank you for always saving us. Without your mercy, Maharaj, truly.
Thank you so very much. And Radha Vijay Devi, I saw your hand up before.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Did you want to speak something?
I'm not a good speaker, but Maharaj, I would just like to thank you for taking the time out to visit Columbus, because you did say you would come to Columbus when we were in India. So thank you for keeping your promise. And I just want to thank you for being you. You're always inspiring. And even through this, difficult Zoom, new Krishna conscious era of, hanging out with the devotees, taking out the time, and you're still preaching. And I just love you. That's all I got to say.
I remember when I was departing Govardhan Eco Village, the last person I saw was Radha Vijay sitting on a bench in front of our little gift store at the temple of Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Bihari, and we had a very nice transcendental exchange.
That was nice, Maharaj. I felt bad because your driver said you hadn't walked in almost 24 hours, and then for you to come over, I was
It's wonderful to see all of you. It's just beautiful. Naveen Krishna Prabhu, is there anyone else that would like to say something or ask something?
Yes, Maharaj, there were a few more devotees in the line. They're ready to ask. So we can, next is Vivek Prabhu. You raise your hand. Would you like to go forward now?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept our humble obeisances. We are eternally grateful to Cincinnati and Columbus congregation. We are roaming in the streets and they picked us up and they showed us Krishna consciousness. So we are eternally grateful to the congregation. And the question I have is, Maharaj, is during this Zoom COVID situation, there is a whole lot of opportunity to hear, especially to your classes. Whenever we hear to your classes, we long for such association. It's very hard to describe, but it really pierces our heart, and we don't really get that association in a virtual situation like this, where devotees don't be with each other. It's hard. What kind of an advice would you give us to keep moving on in such a situation where we have to keep our sadhana going on in a tough situation like this? Because without having a physical association with devotee, like you mentioned, we need to get a higher taste, but without often meeting devotees, it's becoming hard. Whatever we may try to do, it's becoming hard. So is there any practical suggestions you would like to give us, Maharaj?
We should always be eager to associate with devotees according to the particular circumstances and the times. We need to adjust ourselves to seek the opportunity for that association. And it's an opportunity to go deeper into reading Srila Prabhupada's books. It's an opportunity to use technology like today, to interact with one another. It's an opportunity to use technology to hear lectures, to hear seminars, whatever it may be. It's an opportunity to reevaluate, the priorities of our lives and really adjust ourselves so that we're very sincerely putting Krishna first in our lives and putting Krishna in the heart of our families. And actually, in order to put Krishna in the heart of our families, we require to see our family as Krishna's children and really take care of our wives, our husbands, our children in a very Krishna conscious way. And so, this situation is like pressing a reset button in which we have an opportunity to reevaluate where we're really going and where we really want to go. And it's, as the Bible said, seek and ye shall find. And if we're seeking the opportunity to make spiritual progress, we'll find that opportunity in every situation. And in whatever situation comes, we adjust to the situation in such a way that we're taking opportunities to be connected to Krishna and being grateful. Gratitude is so important. If we're just grateful for the things that we like, then that gratitude is quite selfish. But in devotional service, even in difficult times, if we're grateful for whatever opportunity there is for me to serve, for me to chant the names of the Lord, for me to go deeper into Prabhupada's books, for me to worship the deities, to connect with Vaishnavas, if we're grateful for those opportunities, even when it's difficult, that adjustment of consciousness is actually the means by which Krishna gives himself to us. Srila Prabhupada explained there is no material situation that is an impediment to our Krishna consciousness. If we're grateful for the opportunity we have. I have seen people on their deathbeds. I often speak about Bhakti Swami Maharaj. And I've seen, many others also, they're even in that state, grateful. Stoka Krishna Prabhu, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, of course, is a great acharya, a Paramhamsa Vaishnav. Stoka Krishna was just a simple grihasta. But, even when he was dying of cancer, he was so grateful for all the opportunities he had and whatever little opportunity he has now. And, this is important because all of us are going to die too. And we have to prepare ourselves for that situation. It's not a situation that's pleasant, but we have to adjust ourselves to take shelter of Krishna and grow and be grateful in that situation. And that's just the way life is. So this COVID-19 it's a very sad situation because there are devotees who are dying and devotees who are suffering, which is so sad. And, we just lost His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. Of course, we know with him, Prabhupada personally called him, but somehow it was through, a door of this situation. And others in Mumbai are suffering, in London and in America. So it's a very sad situation, and but the opportunity in sad situations is we can feel separation for devotees. We can heartfelt pray for these devotees. We can take shelter of Krishna for these devotees. And at the same time, while there may be loneliness and there may be, a lack of movement, and, we can spiritually grow. Every opportunity is the perfect situation to become a pure devotee if we approach it with a grateful heart.
Thank you, Maharaj. Today, we have devotees from Cincinnati also. So we also go to preaching programs to Cincinnati. They come for the main programs, so main festivals here. So there's one more devotee from Cincinnati. Kush Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept our humble obeisances. So as Navin Krishna Prabhu said, we are from Cincinnati and we don't have temple here. And whenever we feel low in spiritual journey, we go to Columbus temple, and having the association of Columbus devotees, it's like a positive boost for us. And then, we come back up and, we continue our spiritual journey. So I'm really grateful to Columbus devotees and Columbus Association. It's very good to be there and always good to have that association. So Maharaj, I had a question. We have been learning into Krishna consciousness that we have to be humble and we have to try to make whoever we meet happy. So, but in this Kali Yuga, it's really we find difficult. It's very difficult to make people happy, even who are very close to us. So if we try to do something, okay, we are thinking it's good, but they might think it's bad and they're not happy with us, what we are doing. So how to handle this kind of situation? Like people who are very close to us, sometimes they take us wrong, and they're not happy with what we are doing. So how to come out of this situation? Yeah, how to handle?
Try your best. If you're honestly and earnestly putting our own egos aside and actually wanting to serve another, then we try our best. And we learn lessons. If we do something wrong, or if we do something that doesn't turn out properly, then we learn lessons, and we don't get depressed. We don't lose our enthusiasm. We learn and we apply this wisdom to our life.
Okay, Maharaj. Thanks so much, Maharaj.
Thank you. Next is Krish Prabhu. You want to go? Followed by Govinda Prabhu, and Atmamata is raising the hand for some time. Let's Krish go first.
Hi Krishna Maharaj. Please accept our humble obeisances. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming via Zoom to associate with us. My name is Rahul, and I have a question about the Sakyam aspect of the 9 processes of bhakti. Srila Prabhupada always mentioned that we should always treat Krishna as our friend, but because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we're mere, we're jivas, it's difficult to form that connection. And we can always call out to Krishna, and lean on him during bad times. But in good times, we tend to forget. So he feels more like a counselor than a friend. So how do we practically make Krishna our friend in our daily lives? Thank you, Maharaj.
Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Mrichjati. That Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, he's the supreme controller, he's the supreme proprietor, and he's the most intimate, loving friend of every living being. And he's seated within our heart as our dearmost friend. So Krishna is our ever well-wishing best friend. And those devotees who represent him are friends on his behalf. And what it means to be a friend in this sense, Krishna is always our supreme well-wisher. He's just waiting, ready to give us ecstatic love, prema bhakti, when we truly cry out for it as the singular hope and goal of our life. So to recognize Krishna as our supreme friend. And as far as we're concerned, we are Gopi Bhartur Padakamali Ora Dasa Dasanudas. We're the servant of the servant of the servant. And we're trying to please Krishna by being that servant. And we know that Krishna is our supreme lover, and Krishna is our supreme friend, and Krishna is ready to give us shelter in every situation, shelter to our eternal soul. But we are servants, and we're trying to please Krishna as servant of servant of servant. And we chant his names in this spirit. We take shelter of Krishna as our friend. When things are very nice, we try to please Krishna through our actions, our words, our thoughts. So we serve. As far as the sakyam of the 9 processes, Arjuna was a friend and Uddhava was a friend. But just like gopis are lovers, and Krishna reveals our identity, our spiritual identity, when he sees that our hearts are truly receptive. We cannot artificially just try to be Krishna's friend. We're Krishna's servants. And we want to love Krishna through our service to him. And we have complete faith that he's our very best loving friend. And then by Krishna's grace, by our sincerity and by our surrender, Krishna reveals to us how we are also friends of Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
But that sakyam of being a friend like Arjuna is given to us when we're completely pure. Until then, we're loving servants.
Okay then.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Maharaj.
Maharaj. Thank you.
Govind Prabhu, Atma Mataji, you want to go next?
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, please accept our humble obeisances. Our glories to Srila Prabhupada, our glories to you, and our glories to Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and our glories to all Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
My question...
Radha Vijay, are you going somewhere? Yes, Govinda Prabhu, please tell.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. My question was partially answered from the previous questionnaire. The answer you gave him answers part of my question. My question was about this pandemic. Pandemic is separating, dividing the family. Family members cannot visit each other. Devotees cannot come together. I was recently in Gitanagri, in one of my godbrothers' home, and was ready to go and offer obeisances. And I was told that the temple authorities does not allow anybody to go to the temple, and so I cannot go there. It's not just me, but they have bound everybody from going to the temple, and aside that, devotees cannot meet again for Harinam activities, which we like most. Devotees cannot come together and to share association, like Rupa Goswami said, devotional service is performed with association of devotees. We cannot have that again. So the question is, Krishna is the supreme controller of everything. He's the cause and the source of all sources. And he said, blade of grass can never move without his sanction. So this situation which the whole world is facing today, we know for sure that Krishna has his hand in it. But I would like you also to share a little bit with us from your own perspective of this particular situation in reference to the scriptures and the history and your own realization about this very situation that is facing the whole world.
Material nature is very powerful. Daivi heshu gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mamiva me prabhajante mayameta tarantite. This material nature and the three modes, gunas, are very powerful, impossible to overcome. But when we take shelter of Krishna, Krishna takes us beyond it. So whatever the situation in this world, we have to learn how, under those circumstances, to take shelter of Krishna. And that's the perfection of consciousness, how to take shelter of Krishna in every situation, whatever it may be, and how to be loyal to please Krishna in whatever situation may be. And obviously, devotees are so precious in this world. Lord Srila Prabhupada, he exclaimed that for every devotee who comes to our movement, he has shed buckets and buckets and buckets of blood. So that's how dear every devotee is within this movement. And, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to take all intelligent precautions in our devotional service. Sometimes we're willing to risk our lives for the sake of giving Krishna to others. But at the same time, we have to do it in a way that's not foolish. It has to be very intelligent. And with this pandemic, and we see that in reality, hundreds of devotees that I know personally have got this COVID-19. And that means there's far more than that. And I know several who have left their bodies. So this is a serious matter, and it is the responsibility of the temple leaders, to protect devotees' lives. And one of the immaturities I've seen over the years of leaders is let me risk other devotees' lives and Krishna will protect them. That's a misconception. The reality, if you're a leader on behalf of Krishna, you're supposed to be helping protect devotees' lives, not just leave it for Krishna to do. And that's the way Prabhupada led us. Malati Devi is there. She's with us today, Malati Prabhu, and she had the first little baby of ISKCON, Saraswati. And how much, they were risking so much to spread our movement, but Srila Prabhupada was very, very concerned with the care of this little girl. He wasn't just let Krishna take care of her. No, it's the responsibility of the parents to take care. And in the same way, within our temple areas, within our communities, I know and I've heard of directly and indirectly of various churches and mosques, masjids, where, they had large gatherings and they had this idea that God will protect us. We don't care about any of these rules and regulations or governments. God will protect us. And there were hundreds of people who died of the COVID-19 because of this carelessness. And it's important that we respect material nature. Material nature is Krishna. If this pandemic's here, we need to take shelter of Krishna. We need to do whatever we can to spread our movement. But at the same time, we have to protect our devotees. We have to protect the health of the devotees. And these rules and regulations, these restrictions, they're not actually restrictions. They're actually, for our protection. Ragadveshava muktaistu vishayanandriyashcharan atma vishaya vidhyatma prasara marigashchati. Krishna tells that these regulative principles of freedom, sometimes restrictions bring freedom. So we should honor, the concern and the care of the devotees that they have for us. That's the way our leaders are trying to take shelter of Krishna. We should be grateful that they really are caring. I remember Srila Prabhupada, I heard him say that one of the great problems with devotees is we do not have enough fear of Maya. And, if we have to respect Maya. And in that fear, we take shelter of Krishna, but we have to adjust ourselves also according to the situation. So I think it's very important that, devotees are very careful and our temples are very careful too.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
You're very welcome. Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. He would often discuss how in his last years, when he was physically with us, he so much wanted to create an atmosphere of devotional community, where devotees really care about each other and devotees really learn how to forgive each other and resolve conflicts with respect and with Krishna in the center. And he really wanted devotees to go deep into chanting and hearing and prayer. So much of the books that he gave us were his prayers to Prabhupada and his prayers to Krishna. So much of the knowledge we get from Srimad Bhagavatam is in the form of prayers, the prayers of Prahlad, the prayers of Kunti, the prayers of the Prachetas, the prayers of Ambarish, the prayers of the gopis. So, to actually take shelter of Krishna, to take shelter of our gurus in a prayerful mood is very important. And Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj really understood and wanted to give us the understanding that, that the importance of community based on devotees who are really praying for each other.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, there are 10 more devotees in the line want to ask the question. I don't know how much time you have, Maharaj. At one point, I could keep track of the names, but now they're different order. I don't know. So please tell me, Maharaj.
I am very happy to just offer obeisances to everyone at this time. And if everyone could keep your screens on, because I'm talking and everything, I want to just go through and try to see everyone that has assembled.
Devotees, please unmute yourself and say Hari Bol, then you will be popped up so Maharaj can see.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Maharaj.
Bol Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Love you, Maharaj.
Very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, come. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Maharaj, I love you. Hare
Krishna Maharaj. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Love you, Maharaj.
Yeah, I don't know.
Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, our glories to you, Maharaj, our glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Let it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I love you.
Let us conclude with short kirtan together. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Srivasadi Gaura
Jayo Shri Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare
I offer my special gratitude to Malati Devi and to Kamagiri Devi for their divine presence, and to pray
Maharaj also.
Hare Krishna. I wish to extend my Hare Krishna. I wish to extend my gratitude to Malati Prabhu, Kamagiri Devi Prabhu, and to Prem Vilas Prabhu and Sadbhuja Prabhu for organizing this event, and to each and every one of you for being here. And I'm just so grateful. I pray to Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Natabara, shower their mercy, their grace, and their blessings upon each of you and your families. Thank you so very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha patitanam
Unless Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki. In chant, we can loudly chant Hari Bol 3 times. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari
Bol! That's my game. Hari Bol! Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
The devotees, I think Maharaj left. There some devotees could not be addressed. Sorry. The order in which it came is all messed up. Please forgive me. So I tried whatever the best I could, but we only accommodate so many devotees. So, but at the end, it was very nice.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Prabhu.
Okay, on my end, it's saying it's recording. I'm not sure if that's my computer, but will this be going out to everyone?
So yes, Prabhuji. It is
Yes,
being
Prabhu.
recorded.
I think initially we were not allowed to record because it's not a class only for Columbus devotees. But however, now Maharaj gave the class. I think it's very well recorded and then shared it to devotees who could not make it. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
All right, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sadhguru Chetan Prabhu, want to say something at the end?
No, Prabhu, nothing else. Thank you.
Hare Krishna devotees.
Mother Kamakiri, maybe we should say something.
Yeah, Kamakiri.
Hare Krishna, Mother Kamakiri.
So we could able to see a lot of devotees' face now after a long time. So, so happy to see you all.
Mata, you wanted to say something, Mata?
I'm so grateful to all of you for your wonderful, loving, divine, loving service to Shishi Radhanath Swami, Shishi Jagannath Baladev, Lady Subhadra, Shishi Gwani Dai, Giri Govardhan, Shri Parampara. Thank you all so much for this opportunity to be together again. So, Maharaj said he was coming to Columbus no matter what, so he came, but there's still an opportunity. So let's keep
One last thing, devotees. Next Saturday morning, 8 o'clock is the ISKCON. Please come if you can. Next Saturday, 8 a.m. in the morning. If you can make it, that will be great. Ramesh Prabhu will send out the details. So,
Okay, Haribol. Nice to see you all.
Vijay.
I don't know if that they're already
It's become a festival, right?